Obviously, banks, defaults, closures have dominated the headlines. We break down what it means for investors this week. A week ago to the day, you had the closure of the Silicon Valley Bank, a few other closures over last weekend, a little bit of panic setting in by early Sunday, only to be allayed in part because the government stepped in to backstop a lot of the depositors. What does it mean? What do we take away from this? Well, one thing that I certainly looked at, and whether again this was personal conversations I had, clients, friends, acquaintances, or things that I heard, was just again how many people were unprepared for how quickly things can shift, and how many people, including obviously the managers of that bank there in Silicon Valley, forgot some of the time-tested principles, namely diversification, in terms of how you run significant money, whether that's significant to you, significant to your organization, or significant to the broader economy. So let's go through, again, three key takeaways, the first of which we just touched on, diversification. One, what does diversification really mean? It doesn't even mean just owning a bunch of stuff or having a bunch of different stuff. It's a little bit deeper than that. You could, for example, own 100 US stocks. That might reduce your risk for any one company. But even more than that, you want to own things that don't act the same all the time. Thus, kind of the old next step of having some stocks and some bonds. That didn't work for you in 2022, though, which is why we were having so many of our clients prepped into alternatives. Two big things to take away, though, from diversification outside of the outright need of it. One is that it takes a lot of patience and discipline, and most notably because when you have things that are all going to act the same way, what that means, this is one of my favorite definitions of diversification, is a properly diversified portfolio should be disappointing you somewhere within that portfolio at all times, whether it's not keeping up with something else or whether it's quite literally down. Diversification, true diversification, means, again, having a lot of different things that will act different ways in a given environment to, again, protect you. But in the cost of that protection is patience. Point number two is risk versus return. For about the last couple months, we perhaps did a better job of talking about getting cash to work from a return perspective. You have inflation clicking along well above still the rates you're seeing on some CDs, certainly checking or savings. That still continues to be true, that we think there are better alternatives out there with similar, albeit not the exact same risk profiles. But what we found out this week is, and certainly we had seen, thus the point of putting the message out, was how many people were keeping cash deposits far in excess of the FDIC limits, again, seemingly thinking the 2008, the bank failures could never, ever happen again. Everything comes back around. Again, most of the time things could be okay, but as we found out here over the last few days with some of the panic that set in various parts of the country, you don't want to be the victim of one of those few times where things can go really wrong really fast. Point number three, again, is allocation. So broadening back out beyond just the banking crisis to a broader diversification standpoint is looking at the opportunities that exist out there. And again, understanding what it takes to seize those opportunities. Opportunities rarely actually are something that excites you. For us, hopefully we've learned to think in counterintuitive enough ways that we get excited here. Usually an opportunity looks like something that nobody else wants, which again is why it's cheap. So just about the time people weren't thinking through their cash, whether it was from a risk or a return standpoint, therein lied the opportunity. About the time that everybody was giving up on bonds, traditional fixed income, after 2022, which was just a horrific year for it. It's about the time it started to make some sense, which for those of you who are clients within our high income methodology, you've seen us adding to those positions of late. It also means probably, and so I'm just prepping you for it, at some point later this year, as recession odds continue to shift more in favor of that hard landing type scenario, that you're going to have an opportunity to pick up stocks on the cheap. So I think the three big takeaways I would have for you are these. Number one, for that cash on hand, could it be put to a better place from a return standpoint? And are you properly spread out from a risk standpoint? Again, question for you to answer for yourself. Point number 2, are you really diversified? Is there some part of your portfolio that, again, is designed to act differently than all the other parts? Do you know? Certainly something we do on behalf of our clients here and can walk through with any of you, client or not, at any time. And point number 3, to prepare. Prepare for the idea that, number 1, everything we did during that COVID era is going to, again, come with some costs. I think a lot of people thought we were going to get a free lunch, some free money. Nothing's free. And so whether that's the inflation that we've been seeing, the pickle that the Fed's in, perhaps increasing odds of a recession, an actual recession, there is going to be a cost for that. And yet, again, if we're prepared, we'll do 2 things. Number 1 is be ready to seize that opportunity. Point number 2 is whether this is chasing crypto or tech stocks or having too many dollars within a bank account, are we ready to avoid the future temptations or future apathy towards certain things that have defined so much of the last 3 to 4 years at great cost, whether that was lost deposits or potentially, as it would have been, lost deposits, money lost in crypto, money lost chasing meme stocks or tech stocks. There will be something else. And it's always easy to laugh or point to it in hindsight. It's a different thing to not fall for it the next time. At the end of the day, how do we get this right, at least more times than not? It's about partnership. Again, it's about that plan. It's about preparation, things that we're honored to do for so many of you all the time. For those of you who are able to make the March Madness event today, we look forward to seeing you. For all the rest of you, please feel free to reach out anytime. Thanks so much.